Good evening and welcome to Election Playbook. This is a show where we look at the elections that are coming up on the 30th of July. This is the Zimbabwe general elections. It's 3 hours, just 3 hours before the political parties wrap up their campaigns according to the Electoral Act. And it's about 34 hours before we all go and put our X's on our preferred candidates. And today we saw the different political parties going on. In fact, we saw the main runners, that is the MDC Alliance and ZANU-PF, led by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, having their mother of all rallies. So it was very exciting in Harare, and everyone, oh my goodness, the city was just on fire. It was electric. To have a look at those rallies with me in studio tonight are my two guests, that is Acie Lumumba and Agency Gumbo. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Check if they can hear you.
Can you hear me? Please write in the comments button if we're coming to you loud and clear. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
We want to invite everyone who's come onto the page to press the like button. Last night we had, and we will continue to have, if you like Agency Gumbo, press the hearts button, and if you like Acie Lumumba, press the like button. It's interesting to see that we have had so much interaction with people coming on and just liking the feed and keeping updated. Last night, the polls, when we looked at our two guests, who was on fire, or who was more popular between Agency and Acie, we had 305 hearts and 190. Lumumba, you have to change your game. Come on, you can't be lagging behind all the time.
Well, see, the beauty of these polls is they're all happening on my page. So really, I mean,
are you going to assume that the hearts are for you as well?
I mean, you know, sometimes I think people get confused. They just love me so much. They start pressing the like button. It's like the voting exercise. People think they were really trying to be voting for Emmerson Mnangagwa. So if you see any X that's not his, it will go to him. Don't you worry.
Well, I want to give a few shout outs. We've always got people who are loyal to the show.
Yeah.
We have Tinotenda B. Chikandiwa, welcome to the show, and please keep your comments coming in. We have Munya Tevez, we have Livingston Muzengeri, welcome to the show. Brian Michael Mark Rwapunga, welcome to the show. Please keep the hearts and the likes flowing. Gentlemen, to our show today, the rallies. What did you see and what is your take? Acie, let's start with you.
Okay, so it's a curtain close, right? So what happened today is both parties had to go out in the style they saw befitting to end their era of campaign. I said it, so you can't, I'm not surprised. I said it on this show that it would be a terrible idea for ZANU-PF to do anything in Harare. Bad idea. Not because ZANU-PF doesn't have support, but because ZANU-PF, this is not where you do your victory lap. Do your victory lap where you're strongest, not where there is the most space. President Emmerson Mnangagwa, if it had been up to me, should have never done his victory lap in Harare, no matter what numbers would have come to the stadium. And numbers came to the stadium. Those were human beings who were there. But no matter what numbers, he should have never done it in Harare. Whoever advised the president put the president in a compromising position a day before elections. Now let's go to what I think about Nelson Chamisa's rally. Good numbers. Am I surprised? No. Did I see this coming? Yeah. I said it on this show. So I think Nelson Chamisa picked the correct place to do a Virgil, which they always do. Because can I remind you, in 2013, before Morgan Tsvangirai walked himself to the biggest defeat An ego booster. Oh, he got it today.
What's your take, Agency, on the two rallies today? I want you to have a look at the MDC Alliance rally as well as the ZANU-PF rally.
Well, today was the final showdown for not just the two political parties, but for every person who's participating in this election. Today, all the candidates had two obligations. Number one, they had the obligation of summing up their campaigns, and in doing so, redress any mistake that they would have made. During the days of Robert Gabriel Mugabe, he understood one thing, and that was optics. He had a team that understood that you do not play into your enemy's strength, but rather you go and you play into your enemy's weakness. What they should have done was to take their rally and not necessarily in MDC. I think he took a gamble, and the cards were not dealt in his favor. In as far as the message is concerned, I think President Emmerson Mnangagwa came out and articulated the vision that he has been articulating around the country for a long time. He has been saying all over. He did not necessarily go to the gray areas in his campaign message, which is what we expected, because in English in conclusion, you then sum up your message and also raise a few points that you might have forgone in the entire essay. Come to Nelson Chamisa. I think it was amazing. I'm short of words. What happened today, it was amazing, both in as far as messaging is concerned and also managing optics. President Chamisa came out and started speaking to specific groupings in our economy and specific groupings in our country, thereby dismantling ZANU-PF. He went and he spoke to the civil service itself. He went and he spoke to the military.
Agency, can you tell us what he said? Because there are some who were not at those rallies, and they'd like to know what message did he have?
Right, so he had a message to the civil service and dispelled any fears that when he gets into office, there were going to be displacements within the civil service. He gave a clear commitment that government business had to be separated from party business. He was very clear to articulate that when he gets into office and when he's president, everything and every appointment that he's going to make in government was going to be on the basis of merit and not necessarily on the basis of loyalty to the party. MDC Alliance will remain a political party that runs its political party business. But when it comes to government, his government, he has made it very clear, it's a meritocracy-based government. He made even a commitment to the soldiers. Remember, there was a growing fear within the rank and file of the command element. They did not understand what this young man will do when he becomes president. He dispelled the fear. He even made mention of the Commander Defense Forces, Philip Valerio Sbanda, and said to him, look, when we get into office, it's not that we're going to fire you. You are a man of honor. And all we expect from you is to serve your nation and not necessarily to serve ZANU-PF. So this, in a way, shakes the very foundation of ZANU-PF. Remember, one thing that Robert Mugabe was able to do was to build what we call a political base within not just the ordinary citizen, but within government and its various institutions. So every person who was a DA, every person who was probably a headmaster, so what happens when there's a change of government? Because I am where I am today because of my loyalty to ZANU-PF. So President Nelson came out and said, look, when we get into office, if you are of competence and if you've got the capacity to run whatever office you hold in the civil service, we will allow you to continue to serve in that office, because now the game has changed. It's no longer about serving the loyalties and interests of a political party, but rather about serving the interest of Zimbabwe and the people of Zimbabwe. So brilliant in as far as messaging is concerned. He even addressed the business community. He addressed even the issues to do with the upholding of constitutional rights. It was amazing in as far as our messaging is concerned. Well, about crowds, I mean, today was not a surprise for President Nelson Chamisa, because in all the rallies that he addressed, in all the 80 rallies that the president addressed, turnout was always brilliant. Today was bound to be a very heavy and effective punch against ZANU-PF.
Acie, what do you think of Nelson Chamisa's message, especially to the uniformed forces and to the civil service? Do you think it won them over, or what do you think?
So, Nelson Chamisa understands that there are groups of people that are listening to him but haven't made up their mind about him for various reasons. Because some say, oh, he's too young. Some say, oh, but he's not affiliated to our ethnicity. Or some will say, oh, but or whatever the case may be. So there are groups of people watching Nelson, even the business community, the international community, even young people. So they watch Nelson Chamisa with a curious eye. And that eye says, what will your presidency, should it be, mean for my interests? We are all after looking after self-interest. So when they look at him, civil servants want to know, do I keep a job? Do I not keep a job? Because if civil servants understand that there has to be austerity measures that cut government, and there's nothing that makes anybody more insecure than my job could go. So they want to know, is my job staying? Is it going? If it's staying, is it getting better? So he needed to speak to that. So I think he did. He spoke to it as far as his promise is concerned. The only problem is I see absolutely no difference between what he said in his promise to the civil servants versus what President Mnangagwa said. Because when the civil service reform was tabled in cabinet, that happened during the GNU. So these guys actually agree on what needs to happen in the civil service. They both have been working towards it from then. Remember, when you talk about Nelson Chamisa and workers, may we never forget that it is Nelson Chamisa who led the team that the Zuba versus employees case, which allowed the courts to now enable companies to let people go home willy-nilly. It was Nelson Chamisa. So he acts like he's pro-workers, but he's not really pro-workers. He's not a union guy. Nelson Chamisa is not a union guy. Yesterday, agency gave reference and says, MDC is generally known as a workers' party. True, very true. But not Nelson Chamisa. Nelson Chamisa doesn't come from the workers' unions. This guy comes from the student unions. I'm not disregarding one for the other. I'm just saying they come from different groups. So his message today, he was crossing over from what his base normally is, which is the student union-y type of base, to the workers' base. His message, yes, it was correct. It just wasn't new. It just wasn't his. The idea has been there and is there right now. His message to the soldiers, absolutely right to do so. He's going to have to send a signal to the soldiers that whether he intends on working with them or he intends on working against them, does it change anything that he had a message today? No, I don't think really. To be honest, I don't even think the message of either parties mattered today. Because I think someone who wanted to vote for MDC yesterday, with or without their message, is voting for them today. I think someone who wanted to vote for ZANU-PF yesterday, with or without their message, is going to vote for them today, because we live in a polarized country. So his message, indifferent. It was more about the show. To me, it's the show that carried the day. What he said, ask anybody on election day, what did Chamisa say today? They wouldn't remember.
So do you think today was just the party before the party?
I think today was you know, when you're changing jobs and you are leaving one job to another, and they do a little get together for you. You know, what do people call it? Like a farewell party. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what it was, like a farewell party, like bye-bye, 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 bye-bye. But I think the only thing that's going to get a farewell is going to be Nelson Chamisa. He will lose the election. I mean, I can, when we get to the part of the conversation, I can break down how that's going to happen. He will absolutely lose the election. But I think today was kind of giving himself a round of applause for a good effort before he loses the election.
Agency, you're dying to come in.
Well, I'm really yearning to also get to the part where he breaks down how Nelson Chamisa is going to lose the election.
10+4.
Because what happened today was just but an exhibit of the mood that is in the country, that is the entire nation, and among all citizens of Zimbabwe. ZANU-PF exposed itself. Mnangagwa angaistofunga in his mind kuti achazadza stadium riya. That's what he thought. MDC knew kuti vachazadza the Freedom Square, and that's what happened. Unfortunately, the same did not happen with Emmerson Mnangagwa at National Sports Stadium. So what that does also is that it shows to the world the general mood that the electorate has. It also shows to the world, the balance of power in as far as electoral weight is concerned. Already now, it's clear. The people of Zimbabwe have spoken. The people of Zimbabwe, Vanoda Chamisa is opposed. Unaona tika zones, watch announce another result after what we saw today. It will be a shocker not only to people within the MDC, but even to the international community itself, because President Mnangagwa atadza nas kutamba nechino's optics.
But agency, Lumumba brought up a point. Yekuti Changirai akambozadzao.
Okay.
I see he still went on to lose. Do you think Harare on its own is the best indicator? I mean, 70% of our population is in the rural areas. Are we saying, Kuti, if you have Harare, then you've got Zimbabwe?
So let me just show you something here. I mentioned earlier that there's an erosion within ZANU-PF's political intelligence. Whoever is advising or whoever is now the mastermind of ZANU-PF politics is a dwarf in as far as their intellectual capacity is concerned. One thing that Robert Gabriel Mugabe knew to do was to never let the public think otherwise. That's one thing that he knew how to do. I said, all right, tika not game my numbers at this could go and this could compete at the level of numbers. You get my point? Now, ED, on the other hand, he has tried to compete with Nelson Chamisa on a game that he can never win. It is the game of numbers. And now the world over has seen who commands the greatest numbers in the country. It's now very clear. To then insinuate Kuti Nelson Chamisa will lose after the general mood of the country has been exposed to the world, I don't think it will make any sense. I don't think it will make any sense at all.
Let's assume something for a minute. So, I don't believe that Nelson Chamisa right now is more popular than Morgan Tsvangirai. I don't believe that. I believe Morgan Tsvangirai right now is still more popular than Nelson Chamisa. I'll give you an example why. God rest his soul. So this is of no disrespect to Morgan Tsvangirai at all. If Morgan Tsvangirai was alive right now, and he had an election with Chamisa right now, I believe Morgan Tsvangirai would win the election if it was Morgan versus Nelson in MDC. So I believe Morgan Tsvangirai is more popular than Chamisa. Now, if that be the case, Morgan Tsvangirai, at his best, when he did his best effort, had 1.2 million votes. At his best. With that crowd you saw today, at his best, MDC at their strongest had 1.2 million votes. Now, ZANU-PF, again, comes the same premise, is Robert Mugabe more popular than Emmerson Mnangagwa? So possibly Robert Mugabe could win if you're basing it on ZANU-PF structures. He could win. I don't know. I'm not internal enough to understand. But let's assume you would. Still, ZANU-PF at its strongest was 2.2 million votes strong. So let's assume that MDC is as strong as they've ever been, 1.2. ZANU-PF is strong as they've ever been, 2.2. It takes MDC gaining 1 million votes just to catch up with ZANU-PF. So if that be the case, the numbers he's referring to that happened in Harare today, nice numbers, absolutely nice numbers. I would like to see those numbers if I was in ZANU-PF, nice numbers. Are they better than ZANU-PF? Yes. But then, if you're going to use the same argument of numbers, then can we go to the numbers everywhere else? Can we go to the numbers we saw in March East when EDS had a rally and when Chamisa had a rally? Can we then go to the numbers we saw when Chamisa had a rally in Masvingo and when ED had a rally in Masvingo? For every one rally Chamisa did, there were 9 of those rallies in the audience of Emmerson Mnangagwa. That's if you're basing on rallies. So rallies-wise, they lose out of 10, they win out of 1. Rallies-wise, numerically, by reference of background data, they still lose. So I don't know where his numbers could possibly come from that he thinks MDC did something so special today and now the country loves it.
I want to just look at something here. We have President Emmerson Mnangagwa coming in. You could say to a divided ZANU-PF, because there are some who were probably still supporters of former President Robert Mugabe.
Right.
And we now have Nelson Chamisa coming in. Some who were loyal to Morgan Tsvangirai probably have gone on to Thokozani Kupe's side.
Right.
Do you think that this cancels it out? I mean, are they not really
I have
coming?
broken down the political science of this over 3 months ago. The political science is simple. Political science matrices and guides us that every time a political party breaks, it loses about 10% of its base. Only 10%. So when Robert Mugabe left, I concede 10% of the party could have been lost. And that's gone. So out of the 2.2 million, ZANU-PF would have lost 220,000 votes. MDC had 1.2 million votes. When MDC broke and Thokozani Kupe left and Tendai Biti left and Washmi left and all these breakages happened, they broke into a lot of pieces, then came back together. So let's say they only have one break, which is Thokozani Kupe. If Thokozani Kupe took 10%, that's 120,000 votes. That leaves MDC minus 120,000, ZANU-PF minus 220,000. Still take those numbers, pull them up against each other. MDC is still nowhere near ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF only needs 600,000 votes to get past 50%. MDC, yes, well, there's millions of numbers. From those millions of numbers, even if they took all of them, they need to get 1 million first to catch up. Then after that, they need to get another 600,000. It's an impossible catch-up. Will I bet on this? I will.
Are you going to bet?
What I am going to do
Yes.
is stand by my statement.
You don't want to bring out money anymore?
Well, I'm just worried. I don't think the type of money I would like to bet agency can pull it up and then not hate me for taking his money. So I'm not going to play with money.
Agency, it says it's been soft on you. Okay. Agency, we've got over 5.6 million registered voters. True. According to Acie, the best that MDC has ever had is what, 1.2 million? Do you think that you can do better than 1.2 million? And what's your counter argument to his argument?
Well, first of all, let me say that Nelson Chamisa is an extension of a legacy that was left by Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. You do not compare the two. They are incomparable. Morgan Tsvangirai is the Moses. Nelson Chamisa is the Joshua. He continues on a journey that was started by, Dr. Richard Tsvangirai. Pakatangwa Msangano, Chamisa was within the rank and file of the party. He grew under the mentorship of Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. People began and knew to identify Nelson Chamisa with Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. So when Morgan Richard Tsvangirai died, what happened when Chamisa rose to the president of the MDC was just but a transfer of power and a transfer of a legacy. So the very same numbers that made Morgan Richard Tsvangirai popular in 2013 and before are the very same numbers that are the weight behind Nelson Chamisa's campaign today. The only interesting shift in the support base of the party is the demographic dividend that has risen within the party, the youth demographic dividend. We have more young people voting for the first time in this particular election than what happened in 2018. We have an increase in the political conscientization of our society in this election than what happened in 2018. there is a growing consensus within the electorate, a growing consensus within the citizenry of Zimbabwe as to what needs to be done with the government and as to what message to identify with for purposes of moving Zimbabwe forward. So, well, I like the way Ace Lumumba plays around with statistics and how many people are subtracted and all that. But my message and my submission is clearly that Nelson Chamisa anevan. Van Nelson Chamisa are not just his people, are not just people that, because remember, this is a guy who's been in the campaign, on a campaign trail for just 5 months. But the entire support that was on Morgan Richard Tsvangirai is what has been carried forward, because Nelson Chamisa represents the carrying forward of a message that started in 1999. That's what he represents. I
think we have completely taken advantage of the Bible in this election. You know, and I hear politicians play with it a lot. Oh, Moses this, oh, Joshua this, oh, Jesus this. I mean, Mugabe had become a vice Jesus by the time he was shown that Makandi was Jesus. Mugabe vice Jesus. Here is the thing that is missed about the story of Moses and the story of Joshua. Moses is the guy who took the children of Israel from Pharaoh, okay? Joshua is the guy who carried on with the children of Israel that Moses had taken from Pharaoh. So to understand the story of Moses that politicians like to do, you can't begin it at Moses. You have to begin it at who is Moses. It's a certain group. Outside of that bloodline called the 12 tribes of Judah, there's another bloodline, an opposing bloodline. So Mugabe is the Moses, okay? Mugabe is the guy who took Zimbabwe from Pharaoh, who is an opposing bloodline. Mugabe is, you know, when you talk about the Israelites, it's a bloodline, okay? It's not a group of people who are within a group of people. It's a group of people set apart all together. The Zimbabweans are the Israelites, if you want to use a biblical context. So the Israelites are the Zimbabweans. The Moses, we've already gone through the Moses. It's Mugabe. Now, he could be right about something about Joshua, that perhaps Nelson Chamisa is taking over from Mugabe, because we will learn very soon. In fact, I will do a video after this, that yes, Nelson Chamisa is taking over some things from Mugabe. But as far as carrying the bloodline of the country, how do you even do the balance? There's no Joshua-ness in Chamisa. Just because you say God is in it, doesn't mean that Mahabudenga. Mwaridambo siwa kunze, tadila ninya mavoti. Politics are easy. Yes, Bible. Politics, they background.
So, you know, without delving into theological banter, I would want to say that the context of the electoral environment or the context of elections in 2018 has differed with the context of elections in this particular election, the 2018 election on Monday. There has been a lot of changes even in the laws of the country that govern the electoral process. Yes, Morgan Richard Tsvangirai could have lost in 2018 by a fair margin. And we know we attribute that fair margin to the rigging shenanigans exhibited by ZANU-PF and, you know, an extension of its legacy within the management body, the election management body. We have had a reform in the Electoral Act. So we have a basis of demanding for a free and fair election now. We have lost, we have had a reform in the electoral laws. We have a basis of structuring an election in accordance to what we call the fair and credible standards. So there's going to be a shift even in the voting trend in this election. There's going to be a shift. What we saw in 2018, even the apathy we saw in 2018, I guarantee you, of the 5.6 million registered voters, we are obviously going to have close to 3/4 of those coming out to vote.
I think you're making a terrible mistake to think there is political freedoms because there was electoral reform. I mean, there is political freedoms because Emerson Mnangagwa is not suffering from the same insecurities Mugabe suffered from. The issue of Temavumizo Ndichitambai has got nothing to do with the law. Believe me, if ZANU-PF was still Robert Mugabe, ZANU-PF vaingoramba ngone chiuginyabu chekuti tikutamba asotwa ngabude asotwa ngarutse. Yengoramba yakadaro. Emerson Mnangagwa is not doing it because it's legal. He's doing it because he actually believes in it. He opened up the playing field not because it was legal. He opened it up because he believes the playing field has got to be open. Now, For a man who is speaking about electoral reforms, for a man who is giving us a chronology of how we've moved with electoral reform, surely, how then are you then the same man or the same political party that says things like, it doesn't matter what people vote and say, like, we have won. It doesn't matter. You've just said in a statement before that electoral reform is what is allowed in open playing field. And then just yesterday, you were preaching vividly and avidly to the extent of press conference, we have
Agency,
won.
don't we have a contradiction here where you are saying this election, President Mnangagwa, there've been electoral reforms, and at the same time we also have the opposition who have so much disgruntlement over so many issues. Would you not say that we have seen President Emmerson Mnangagwa opening up the playing field, really, as far as politics in this country is concerned? Would you not say there's more tolerance and therefore the opposition was given more space on the political arena?
First of all, you need to understand that it is not President Emmerson Mnangagwa who has created the environment that we are in today. It's not President Emmerson Mnangagwa who has conscientized the citizens of their political rights and freedoms. Rather, it is the citizens themselves, because we began to see a tide or a rise, within our society in as far as political matters are concerned, even during the Mugabe era. And what Emmerson Mnangagwa is running away from is the same fate that met Robert Gabriel Mugabe. His commitments and his, sentiments in as far as the holding of a free and fair election are basically him shunning the same foe that met Robert Gabriel Mugabe. Now, let's talk about the issue of electoral reforms. Let's talk about the reform in the laws that govern the elections of the country. Are we satisfied with the level of reforms? Probably not. But are we happy with the steps that were taken in reforming our laws? Yes, we are happy about the steps. We celebrate every step because, remember, we've been fighting for electoral reforms for a very long time. Now our issue, or the issue that the MDC and the opposition movement has been highlighting, is an issue of conformity. To say now we have the law, how about we start doing things as stipulated by the law? How about we start doing things as stipulated by internationally recognized standards? That's the outcry from the opposition movement. Now, to say there's a contradiction also with what we are saying, President Nelson Chamisa, remember, never encouraged people to not go and vote. That's not what he did. Neither did he encourage people to say, we have won before the election. No. What he's simply saying is that the mood in the country and even the response of the entire electorate points to one direction. It points to a Nelson Chamisa victory. It points to a victory for the people of Zimbabwe. And any other victory which does not point in the direction being pointed by the people of Zimbabwe is a nullity.
If we ran nations anywhere in the world based on the mood of what you feel is your mood, democracy would have absolutely no space. Because moods also change. In fact, moods change by the minute. I can be extremely happy right now. 2 minutes later, I could be very angry. So if we used moods to determine the future of any state, there's a reason they don't do that. There's a reason the model used is the electoral process. It's called a process for a reason. You must go through the process. Agency likes to talk about fate. He says, President Mugabe and President Mnangagwa, same fate. Now, he could be right, because President Changirai's fate, is probably and highly likely going to be the fate of his junior Nelson Chamisa. But team there is nothing agency has said so far that is scientifically proving that MDC can win except their mood and the mood around the country. By the way, when they say the mood around the country, they're referring to the parts of the country they went to. No one made them prefect, or no one gave them a thermostat that gauges people's temperature to know what the temperature in Nigeria say. The temperature in Nigeria ballot box. I have seen people go to rallies in thousands and not vote. do Bora Msango. I've also seen people who've never held rallies, but I know in the election book, election booth, ono win election. So rallies are absolutely nothing to do with what's going to happen in the ballot box. Saka iona kumanya, ndozoti murwa nyowana mu game, Chamisa munyowana mu game ka, saka ane problem yekumanya mu game. So ngofane munhu abata for the first time, unoona problem yekumanya because awusati wakuzoti pace inofana kurova sei yekudrive mota because mota haidi haungoti chipinda moto boti gear 5 mota inoitwa gear 5
You see, one of my major fascinations about with Acie Lumumba is his failure to understand and grasp context. He goes on a tangent and he starts articulating facts that have not been raised. When you talk of electoral mood, when you talk about the mood of the nation during campaigns, this is exactly what culminates into the vote. So when we say the mood in the entire country generally points to a Chamisa victory, we talk of the reactions of the electorate to the message that has been preached.
Based on what scientific evidence?
By
is it a
the
poll?
president.
Are you basing it on a poll?
Well, we have had a discussion on polls.
Give me one that said you're winning. Give me just one.
Agreed.
Just one that said you're winning.
Wait, allow me to articulate my point.
Can I go
MDC? I said, winning. Allow me to articulate my point before you contest.
I'm sorry.
So I'm saying, the president has gone around the country. And the first thing that Nelson Chamisa did before he began to provide the solutions, or before he began providing direction in as far as solutions to the problems Zimbabwe is having, he had consultation meetings with people. And the general message that he received from the people of Zimbabwe was that they were tired with the way the country was governed. And who has been governing the country for the past years? It's ZANU-PF. It's not just Robert Mugabe, but it's the entire system of the ZANU-PF regime. And now, if you have 50, 60, or 70% of the electorate demanding a change or a shift from the way governance is handled in the country, I mean, surely you cannot then expect people to vote in favor of the same system that they are castigating during consultations.
Perfect. Hold on a minute. Perfect. For the first time, Agency gave us a scientific figure. He said, when you have 50, 60, 70 people in the country, 50, 60, 70% people in the country, I'm going to say that one more time. 50, 60, 70% people in the country. I would like to know, where did the 50, 60, 70% of the people in the country come from? Just give me one scientific evidence of where you get these Kululu figures from.
Okay, guys, we're about to come to the end of the show, so let's just put in a couple of things that I still want us to discuss. First of all, Acie, there have been pictures on social media of people trying to leave President Emmerson Mnangagwa's rallies. And some have said, no, mabazi anenga kuriza mauta, saka vanhu vanenge vachida kumainda mabazi. Some have said, no, people will be wanting to leave because they came there without really, just wanting to show face. What's your take on that?
My take on people wanting to leave? I mean,
those pictures
don't you want to leave when we are done? Don't you want to leave?
Okay, all right.
I'll tell you what.
Have you seen the pictures?
Well, look, I'll tell you what.
Have you seen the comments?
I'll tell you what I have seen.
Okay.
I have seen people throng stadiums to hear President Mnangagwa.
Yes.
I have seen people wear faces of President Mnangagwa because they want people to see them wearing face Yemun Wavanoda. I've seen people wearing hats. I've seen people arriving. I've seen people leaving. I've seen a lot of things. I think you obsess about what you want to see. And it's something that I know a mentor of mine always teaches me, that I'm obsessed with always wanting to see the negative. There is a lot of things to see here. I've seen people dancing. I've seen them eating food. And on Monday, I'm going to see them voting. This living, I mean, must people die in the stadium, please? Can people leave after rallies?
Very briefly, Agents.
Yeah, briefly, ZANU-PF is known for doing one thing, and that is to, forcefully coerce people to attend their rallies. And the redundancy in the message that Emmerson Mnangagwa preaches wherever he goes, even today, National Sports Stadium, vashoma vanga variko vanga vakutobuda vakati tazokuita kuapa matishets ekuya kurally kuzonzwa Nelson Chamisa pa Robert Mugabe Square. But you know why? People of Zimbabwe have matured to an extent that they can sense sincerity when it is there. They can sense also, the true commitment of a statesman towards developing the country. And what Emmerson Mnangagwa has failed to do, I actually hoped today there was going to be a shift in his messaging. And he failed to address the very needs that the people of Zimbabwe are clamoring for. So this is exactly why they go, because I know right, and then halfway through the speech, he fails to address the great questions of the day. People leave.
You know who failed to address the great questions of the day today? Who is your vice president, Nelson Chamisa? Who is your vice president?
But is that the great question of the day?
Before we close, Lumumba, you said you were going to tell us why Nelson Chamisa was going to lose. But before we get to that, I want to also ask you, yesterday there was talk of ballot papers that were found in the back seat of someone's car.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
No.
Okay, fine. All right, fine.
I mean,
give us your...
I'm sure they were. Zek's car. I mean, Zek needs to transport them somehow, right? I'm sure there were also jerseys in my wardrobe.
So no need for anybody to worry or panic.
There is need.
They are forever panicking. There is need
to panic.
Panic is perpetual in
when you begin to realize connotations of electoral rigging, when you begin to realize indications of theft, or kubiwa kwe victory vana Zimbabwe, there is need to panic. I can assure you right now that the people of Zimbabwe understand, and they've gotten to a point where they know ZANU-PF never wins fair. They've gotten to a point where they know. This is why President Chamisa has come out to say, we are calling out our supporters to defend our victory. We are calling out our supporters to ensure and safeguard against ZANU-PF's rigging shenanigans. It wasn't, I mean, the pictures have been circulating on social media. It's not a ZEC vehicle. How does a ZEC vehicle then carry posters of a candidate? It doesn't make sense.
About the specimens, in Kwanaigan, Arigogana Harvest House, my specimen, anyone who needs, Nelson Chamisa, Atori, could also Mazia. Kuti ichi ndikatarisa ichi ana kuchionera mota mamwe inoona printira inini specimen ndaitora pa computer kuiprinta because it's specimen achizindocho
so you can, I mean, one can seek to hide behind a finger, which is what ZANU-PF is always.
But how have you proved that it's not a specimen?
It's always known to do. So
but you're back to this you can't prove anything.
Our concern is with the failure by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to come and dispel any fears, because remember, a fair election and a credible election is not just about abiding with the letter and spirit of the law. It's also about building national consensus. So if ZEC realizes, because I know this is a complaint that has been raised by the public. If the Electoral Commission itself has failed to come out to dispel our fears, what confidence should we have in them managing this election in a credible manner?
Guys, their fears are too many. They could get tired.
Well, we've got 34 hours or just under to go until we all visit the ballot box. Acie, do you think President Emmerson Mnangagwa has got this in the bag?
I bet my salary, okay, to agency on one thing. Okay. I can't bet on the rest, but I can bet on this one thing. And that one thing is President Emmerson Mnangagwa will beat Nelson Chamisa. I'm not going to talk about the figures way beyond my pay grade, but as far as election, our election grow watch it.
Agency, just what's your take? Quickly.
Bet your salary too. Bet your salary too. Come on.
What are you betting?
Come on, agency.
Kuti, your man will win.
I'll bet my entire salary too.
Wow.
Nelson Chamisa is winning this thing on Monday.
Okay.
Nelson Chamisa is taking this thing. The people of Zimbabwe are winning in this election.
Bet your wife's salary too.
All right, guys.
Bet both those salaries.
We have had Agency Gumbo and Acie Lumumba in studio betting once again on who is going to win this election. Either President Emmerson Mnangagwa or MDC Alliance President Nelson Chamisa. We thank you for joining us. We have been seeing your comments. Thank you very much. Once again, we had said if you're Team Agency, press the heart button. And if you're Team Lumumba, press the like button. So tomorrow we'll see who got it today. But thank you once again. This has been the election playbook. Our election is almost here. From tomorrow, there won't be any party regalia, so we won't know which party you belong to. But on Monday, we are going to vote in the most exciting election since 1980 when we welcome a new president. For the ladies, once again, I just want to remind you, your little pinky finger on the left. Mangwana rangu nela kabisa nail polish. If you've got artificial nails, please take those off and have a clean finger, and we can go and vote on Monday. Good night.
Hey, clean fingers.